Okay, so Connor, you're going to just introduce us because we have to get to the election of the chair, item 1, don't we? Is that correct?
Yes, of course. So let me just get up my agenda pack. There we go. So thank you all. So just to explain sort of this process, because it hasn't occurred before in terms of sort of Powys Public Services Board. So following County Councillor James Gibson-Watt's resignation as Executive Leader of Powys County Council a few months ago, there's now a need to elect a new chair for the Public Services Board, as Councillor Gibson-Watt is no longer a member of the board because it's the membership is linked to the person that holds the Executive Leader position within the council. So the Vice Chair remains the same, which is currently fulfilled by Dr. Carl Cooper, Chair of Powys Teaching Health Board. So there's now an opportunity for representatives of the statutory PSB member organisations to nominate someone from within the statutory membership to be chair. And this nomination will require a proposer and seconder and require the person to accept the nomination. And then if no other nominations are received, a vote will then follow, which can consist of a simple majority vote by hands. And just to note as well that the statutory organisations of the PSB are Powys County Council, Powys Teaching Health Board, Mid and West Wales Fire and Rescue Service, and Natural Resources Wales. So is there any proposers for a nomination? Or I guess it might be easy to start with, is there anyone who would like to potentially nominate themselves as chair from the statutory membership?
Well, I'm happy to be nominated or to nominate myself as chair, as leader of Powys Council. I suspect it's traditional that the chair is held here, although not that doesn't have to be the case.
Thank you, Councillor Berryman. Just wait a moment, just in case anyone else wanted to nominate anyone else. But if there is someone from the statutory membership who could propose and would like to, and then someone else would like to second the nomination of Councillor Berryman as chair. Thank you, Gavin. And Mez, are you happy to propose and second?
Yes, that's fine. And I was going to say from NRW's perspective, I sit on multiple PSBs, so it's more complicated in terms of putting ourselves forward to chair, vice chair the Ceredigion PSB. But yeah, I'm more than happy to propose and support the proposal for Councillor Berryman.
Thank you, Gavin. And Mez, are you okay as well to second that nomination?
Yeah, confirmed. More than happy to second that nomination.
Yes, thank you very much. And now that we've had a proposal and second, we can move to the formal vote from the statutory member representative. So if you could kindly raise your hand if you are happy to approve the nomination of Councillor Berryman as chair of the board. I think we've got, just checking that we've got a majority.
I did put my own hand up, but I dropped it again. Connor?
I think the vote will pass if Gavin, were you content to also?
Yes.
Vote? Yeah. That's perfect. So yes, we've got a majority then to support the accepting the nomination of Councillor Berryman as chair. So we'll note that in the minutes, and then we can proceed. Chair, then if I can hand over you to proceed with the meeting, it'd be much appreciated.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and welcome everyone to this meeting of the Public Services Board. It's the first time I've attended, but many of you will be old hands at it, and I'm sure together we'll get through the business that we have today. As has been indicated already, I've recently taken over of the role as leader of Powys Council, but have been for some time a member of the cabinet there. I've retained a number of the responsibilities that I had in that role, but have added performance and partnerships to the people and strategic planning role that I had previously. So I hope I bring something that I'm able to contribute to the table today. As indicated in a little bit of the chat just before the meeting, I don't intend to go round the room with introductions. I know many of you in any event, but where I don't, I'm sure we can fill in the gaps when you put your hands up to speak on items as the agenda progresses. If you can just briefly introduce yourself and your organisation at that point in time. In that way, hopefully we'll keep the meeting running smoothly. So thank you for that. Connor, I know we have a number of apologies today. Perhaps you can just highlight those for the minute, please.
Of course, Chair. We've received apologies from Hayley Thomas from Powys Teaching Health Board, Chief Executive, but she will be represented by Mary Bowley. Also received apologies from Dr. Carl Cooper from Powys Teaching Health Board, Fiona Valentine, Powys Teaching Health Board, Ewan Cray from Mid and West Wales Fire and Rescue Service, but he will be represented by Steve Rowlands, who is in attendance today. Apologies for seeking Diane Reynolds and Felicity Llewellyn from Powys County Council, and then from Welsh Government, Rhys Morris and Anne Watkin, from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, Alison Perry, and then from HM Prisons and Probation, Christine Harley, and then from Ban Abercraniog, National Park Authority, Liz Hutchings, and Simone Loth Thomas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So whilst there are a few absences today, I'm sure we are a small and perfectly formed group, and I do welcome you to today's meeting. So item 3 on the agenda are the minutes of the previous meeting. Of course, I didn't attend that. That was on the 9th of April. So I have read the minutes, but I look to someone that perhaps was present there and is content with the minutes to move the minutes for me, please. Gavin, thank you. And is it Mez? I've heard Connor pronounce your name a couple of ways, but perhaps if Gavin, let's just let's vote on that then, and then we'll come back to yourself. So we've got a proposer and a seconder, and can we have just a quick show of hands for the minutes? So we've dealt with that. You're looking for your virtual hands, or you can click on there. I don't mind either way. I'm not getting too many hands coming up. I think I'm trying to see them. Yep, there we are. There were Gavin. I could see you and couldn't see the hands, so I've got a few hands going up. So thank you very much. So Connor, are you satisfied we've cleared the minutes? That's good. Could I just come back to you both then to briefly just introduce yourselves? Gavin, I know we've met, but it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, certainly. So Gavin Bown, I'm Head of Operations for Mid Wales for Natural Resources Wales.
Hi, I'm Mary Bowley, known as Maz. I'm Executive Director of Public Health with the Health Board.
Thank you very much. I thought he said Mez, and I was trying to work it out. So thank you very much for that, and we'll use that if that's okay. Okay, so thank you very much for approval of the minutes. We come then to the 3 standing items. So we've got item 4, work stream updates and action plans, and we've got the 3 points under there. So Catherine, can I ask you to pick up the first of those, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So on page 11 of the actual pack, you will see the start of our update. So it's over 2 pages. We've decided to use a slightly different template to hopefully hone in on what milestones and progress and priorities we've got for the programme. So just to enlighten you, Councillor Jake, as you haven't been here before, we lead on the one objective, which is about reducing duplication across the Public Service Board, as well as shaping the future by improving our understanding of what matters to people through evidence and insight. So we tend to look at the data side of things as well as the engagement with the people of Powys as well. So overall, this one is for the Q1, which is 1st of April to 30th of June. This one is on track. So good progress has been made with the actions that we set out in the wellbeing plan. So there's been a lot of work as a collaboratively to ensure that we are sharing engagement and the findings that we get. So on page 13 to 61 of the pack, you will see the Powys People and Communities Insight Report. So this pulls together all of the engagement that has taken place across the different partners into one, so that we can share that and people can then go and look at things further if they wish to. But it also shares what the findings were from those. So this is the second report that's been done. I think the last one we published around Christmas-ish time at the end of last year. So that was a big one for the group. There's also better mechanisms to collaborate with the public. And so the network has been meeting up. So there were 2 networks. There's the engagement side and then the data. So the data side, obviously the next big thing will be the wellbeing assessment. And our next one we will have to publish in March 27, but obviously work starts a long time before then. So we're looking at the data that we do have on our wellbeing information bank, which is a shared resource that we all have on our public website. But they're also looking at some of the other gaps and who could lead on some of those areas as well, because as you know, as part of the Wellbeing Act, when we do our wellbeing assessment, you've got 4 themes of wellbeing. So it's really important to ensure that we've got as much data as we can, because it doesn't just inform our own wellbeing plan, but also our own plans, like our own corporate and strategic equality plan. So it's really important to get it right. So engagement and data have been really key this quarter. So I won't read it all verbatim. You can see there on the report what has taken place. But we've got some workshops scoped out in terms of that data, and that is the next big thing, to make sure that we are as prepped as we can be and utilising the data that we do have, so that if we do it once, we've got it then to use, and it's not going to become out of date as soon as something's been done. So as well on the report, we've tried to pull through some of the risks and issues that we've got. So obviously funding, like all of these work streams, is or has always been an issue. So we aren't funded, we are just utilising existing resource that we've got within our own organisations. So it's just something that we have to tolerate, but we do obviously look around at what funding could be available and whether or not we could make use of that to do some of the work that we would like to do. But in terms of risks, they're relatively low. So there's one around data sharing. So we do have some data sharing agreements in place, but it's just reviewing some of that now in relation to the wellbeing assessment to ensure that we cover all partners, to make sure that we can utilise all the data that is available. And then capacity, which I'm sure is something that crops up on everybody's list. It's not unique to us either. So yeah, if anyone has any specific questions, I'll try to answer them, but I didn't want to bore you with a lengthy update.
No, that's very interesting. I've got a question, but I'll wait to see what hands pop up first from the floor. No, whilst others are considering then, can I just ask Catherine, so within the body of the report itself, I'm just looking at the contents page there, for instance. We've got some really useful feedback, specific feedback, the place stuff, for instance, and I'm looking bearing in mind it's my patch, Llanddrin, Wales and Rhaeadr, the locality engagement feedback. So that's on page 10 of that pack. But of course, we've also done some locality engagement work as Powys Council in the locality areas, including Llanddrin, Wales and Rhaeadr. And where might I see this information brought together on a locality basis? So the second part of that question is, there's some really useful thematic points or specific points which are coming out here that are captured in the report. But in terms of comms and sharing, are we collectively generating stories around this collaborative work that we're doing? So two buried questions in there for you.
No, thank you. So the report that Councillor Berryman was looking at there obviously is further on from the two top pages, and it is it's the insight report that's published twice yearly to bring together the collective analysis of engagement that has taken place. So as you mentioned, yeah, Llais do feed into this report and have provided us with this information. In terms of internally, oh, Emma's got her hand up, but in terms of internally, this information we will share more widely with the team to make sure that we do join up the dots and utilize something once very well. But there is some learning to make sure it does feed through into what we are doing as well. So I will take a note of that.
So I was trying to encourage you, Catherine, to mention the hub that you've recently launched, and I was hoping you would say that we will find all locality type data in that hub. So now I've taken you in that direction. Would you want to just give a little bit more on that?
Yes, I can do. So we do have a hub, as you correctly point out. So so all town and community councils, we have 110 of them in the county. So they are able to access and get information on what we call the hub, which is on the Have Your Say page, and we will make sure that we share this link with you. So as part of some conversations that we've had across the county, we have promoted this hub, and it's not just a one-way hub where we will put information on for the councils to go and look. It's also enabling the people in their local areas to also put on topics and suggest things as well. So it's a two-way, it's a method of hopefully communicating and connecting with our town and community councils across a quarter of Wales. So it is a very large patch which we have to cover. So it's just one of our methods of trying to communicate and be in touch with those out and about as easily as we can. So yes, we will make sure that that is also joined up as well. Diolch.
Thank you. I've got two hands then. Emma Palmer first.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. Catherine, I've just taken a step back really in looking at the step that says shaping the future by improving our understanding of what matters to the people of Powys through evidence and insight. And thank you for providing us with this report and the detail within it in respect of engagement, etc., that has been undertaken. But there's a couple of things for me. One is about how we're using that information to inform decision making going forward. So what has it led to, and how are we utilising that effectively across the partnership? And the other element, one of the components around this when we first set it up was around not duplicating, streamlining, being more efficient in this space across the partnership. And I'm just wondering whether you could take back to the group, what have we actually avoided doing, in terms of duplication, etc. Because I think we've got to ask ourselves the so what question, because from the evidence and insight perspective, I like evidence and I like insight, and I like data, and to utilise it to understand and context and to help inform decision making. But it's only going to be good if we use it, and so that's what I'm interested from a not just from the strategic partnership space, but how we're using that across the sector. I'm not expecting you to be able to answer all of that today, but it might be something just to take away, if you don't mind, and bring back at another date.
So, Catherine, are you happy to take that away?
Yeah, I'll take Yeah, I can take it away, but just for now, we do definitely have a shared engagement calendar. So it's forward work programming basically of when things will be going out by who, to make sure that we are, you know, if something's happening, then it's a shared thing as well. So we've got that, and but no, I'll come back with a more comprehensive list for our next meeting in September.
Thank you. Connor.
Oh, thank you, Chair. It was just to note, I think in relation to your question before, or sort of relates to part of that question, and just to confirm that the Have Your Say Powys sort of engagement hub website that we have, there is a dedicated hub on there for sustainable Powys. And then at that time we did a large, quite a large like locality-based engagement project that was undertaken alongside with the health board, sort of their Better Together program. So there's quite a lot of information on that hub, which breaks down those sort of findings from each locality. So that is there. But then I think this report is still fairly new. But I think what we've been discussing at the engagement and insight network, which we have between sort of PSB and regional partnership board engagement colleagues, is that we'll be able to use these reports as a body of evidence to inform the next wellbeing assessment and population needs assessment, because we do need to consider engagement findings that we receive, and there will be a dedicated sort of consultation to inform that as well. But we will be able to use this evidence, and it will obviously be spanning a number of years by the time we get to that point. So we'll have built up quite a bit of information there, and we can use that to identify themes. So there's that, and then also we took back a comment that I think Emma made at the previous PSB meeting in relation to how we can sort of make use of the forwards thinking aspect of this report. And we have got a section, I think it's at the end of the report, where we put sort of very high level updates in terms of what partners have got planned in the near future. But I think what the network thought might be quite useful is if we could ask PSB members here, but also the ask could be wider to senior leaders of all the PSB organisations in their own respective meetings, in terms of, are there any key questions that they would like to, us to include in our engagements, that we can feed that back to the network then, and sort of feed that through then, and hopefully we can try and implement those questions, wherever possible. And if there's sort of a common theme in terms of the questions senior leaders would like us to ask them, that obviously simplifies it even more. So there is that as well, that we were quite interested in finding out, is that useful for people, but also noting Emma's points, and we definitely will be taking those back and be able to bring back an update at the next meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I suppose for me, it wasn't about being able to bring back reports here. What it was about was that if we're both in the same space, in this case in Crickhowell and the locality pieces in Rhaeadr and Llandrindod, that was being captured and actioned, so that when anyone from any of our sectors holds conversations with those communities, and I don't just mean the town and community councils, they are cognizant of the issues and opportunities that colleagues have raised. So that information is clear, it's been gathered, and they can have those conversations and solve the problems, in inverted commas, that are being identified in Crickhowell or Llandrindod and Rhaeadr and across the piece. So I'm less worried about reports here being updated. I accept that that's the case. It's about practicalities and how we're going to manage those practicalities as we go forward. But thank you for that. So I've got Mez and then Claire on standby.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So absolutely sort of agree around that, joined up across sort of services when we are engaging with residents, so we become that one voice. And equally, I know there's good work going on with the engagement group spanning sort of organisations. So thank you to those staff involved. I know Connor mentioned Better Together there, so I just want to highlight to all members to make sure everybody is aware that we're currently engaging on Better Together, and there have been a number of events or engagement sessions that public can attend, and also for staff, and we're so keen to hear everybody's views. And there's also an online survey which is open until 27th of July, so I'm happily to circulate that information to members if you haven't had sort of sight. Equally, we're happy to take feedback, any thoughts, etc., in any format that people want to give it as well. So diolch.
Thank you for that, Mez. Thank you. And Claire Swales, I know we've met Claire, but again, if you follow the rule and briefly introduce yourself, that'd be great. And you're on mute, I think. I can't hear anything.
Oh no, it's not working.
I can hear you now. No.
Is it working now? Yeah, I've had a few technical gremlins. Thank you, Councillor Jake, and congratulations on your appointment. Looking forward to catching up with you in the coming weeks. Yeah, to everybody that don't know me, I'm Claire Swales, Chief Executive at PAVO, Powys Association of Voluntary Organisations. And thank you very much for this report today. I've already seen this through the route of the RPB and have received feedback from colleagues in terms of the work of the Engagement and Insight Group, and really pleased that this is a cross-sector approach, and trying to gather that information into one place is really key. I think some of the questions that have been raised are really important. So how are we using this information within our own organisations and collectively? It's quite a long, detailed report to go through. So I think the point that Councillor Jake made around, is there a way of looking at it through a locality lens, might be quite useful. So it's a go-to place by locality, because it's quite difficult, isn't it, to distinguish all the various engagement techniques that are happening in various parts of the county. But I also wondered what else is missing, because there seems to be a whole plethora of engagement happening at the moment. And are we capturing all engagement forums that are taking place? So thinking about the Live Well Forum, for example, I don't think that's included in the report. Are there key things we're missing? But also, what does good look like in terms of community engagement? So if we're going out to the population of Powys, are we basing ideas on responses, say, from 100 people? Is that good? You know, what would we collectively think good is? And I know different people have particular areas of life that they might be interested in, be that climate, be that well-being, etc. But what does good look like? And I would like to see more promotion of the Have Your Say Powys platform. It's a fantastic platform, a really good resource. But how many people, if we went out into Llandrindod today to Tesco's and asked if people knew about it, how many people would actually know about it? So I think there's something collectively for us all to do to point people in that direction, so they're really aware of the platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your positive comments and highlighting the fact that, yes, there's more we can do to point people to all of the good work that we're doing across sectors. I think you're right. There are some things missing, and I think we do need to do a little bit more work about what engagement looks like as opposed to consultation. We've got some big pieces of engagement / consultation coming out, the local development plan, which can and should be locality based, Claire, and a lot will shake out of that isn't necessarily land use based, but because we're asking people in places, they will share their thoughts about GP surgeries or their local fire station or their forestry resource, etc. So people are passionate about the place in which they live, and they'll use every opportunity to tell their stories about those places, and it's how we capture that in a meaningful way, isn't it? Rather than just take what we want and leave the rest. So we can take it and share it. So that's really useful for you to say that. If there are no more hands, and I see none, I'm going to move on to the next standing item on the agenda. So I'll thank Catherine, and the next one is on climate on page 56. And who have I got for that? Is it Liz? Who have I got?
Chair, you've got me, Toby Pitts today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Toby. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you much for the opportunity. As stated earlier, Liz sends her apologies, so I'm going to be presenting an update for you today. So I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay. I've had some slides just to run through, but in the briefing pack we have A board paper, we have a work plan, and we have a framework document which provides a little bit more information. I'm going to run through some high-level updates for you now on the slides. Can you all see that okay? Brilliant, thank you. So first thing to sort of start with then really is a reminder that the climate emergency work that we're doing has a whole of Powys scope. So we have a secretariat which is based at Banner Bacheniog, but the work is looking at the whole of Powys and sort of the whole, not just public bodies, and a whole range of organisations across Powys. We have concluded our phase 1 work, which many of you hopefully have been involved in, and sort of through that work really we've conducted a whole range of research and analysis. We've conducted a carbon footprint assessment that's looking at scopes 1, 2 and 3. We now have a sort of a Paris-aligned decarb trajectory and a climate risk assessment. We have conducted a whole range of feasibility studies in conjunction with consultants, and we have done a lot of work around sort of convening various stakeholder engagement groups. We've been looking at sort of developing our climate working group, events with town and community councillors, and the sort of climate stakeholder group. We've also done a lot of work around sort of case studies and asset mapping. And where this has sort of got us to is a point where we have a real sort of understanding now of some of the climate risks and opportunities across Powys, and we've started to develop that sort of evidence base. We're then moving now to sort of our phase 2 work. So we've been given an additional tranche of SPF funding, which will take us until the end of February 2026, and we have a new time frame for this, and it's been shaped by some short-term priorities, which include building better capacity and capability for long-term action. But essentially, we're really looking now to transition from that sort of research and evidencing phase into climate action and more immediate actions. This next tranche of funding isn't going to sort of solve all of the issues we're looking at around the climate, but it's taking us towards the next steps really. So what I'm going to do now is run through some of the work packages that we're looking at for the next phase. Again, a reminder, we have the full sort of work plan in the briefing document which Connor has circulated. I'm just going to run through them at a high level, but if you need any more detail, please feel free to ask questions or have a look at that document. So building on what was discussed earlier around the Have Your Say website, we are going to develop a new engagement hub for climate in Powys on the Have Your Say website. So this sort of hub will really allow us to create some new assets around climate. As sort of Catherine was saying earlier, it's that two-way conversation as well with stakeholders. We can share information with them, but we can also get views and get consultation on a range of climate-related topics. So I think this is a really sort of powerful tool that we will be developing in the next phase. It's also important, I think, to say that we will try and work with all the other sort of PSB partners and other organisations to ensure that the assets and the messaging are reflective of the work that you're already doing in this area. We're not looking to sort of start from scratch here. We're looking to build upon the great work that's already been done and to consolidate and to ensure that our messaging is related to, for example, the Welsh Government messaging. But we really want to try and create a hub that's dynamic as well, with these sort of rolling climate updates, and also a help desk and Q&A function where we can address some of the climate issues that stakeholders might have. And this is really about distilling localized information to people in Powys. We're then looking at work package 2, which is about sort of public body and stakeholder coordination and involvement. So we've been doing a lot of this work in phase 1. But it's really around sort of thinking about transitioning the Powys Climate Stakeholder Group to a panel with a clear sort of terms of reference, continuing to convene the Powys PSB Climate Working Group, and the ongoing coordination of the key groups and supporting public bodies. So we've done a lot of work around kind of acting as this catalyst and getting these various groups working. We want to continue doing that within phase 2. We're then also looking on work package 3 at sort of climate social enterprises and initiatives. So we're really understanding that we need to be taking a holistic view on climate. There's a whole range of well-being issues, economic issues, and getting under the skin of that, how climate social enterprises and it relates to people's everyday lives is going to be incredibly important. So we have a proposal to work with 2 social enterprises across Powys and to look up scaling up those solutions to the wider county. We're looking to work with the Hive in Llandrindod and Super Surplus in Wrexham. And these aren't meant to be definitive. We know there's a huge range of other sort of initiatives happening in Powys and lots of other good work happening. But by working with these 2, we can learn from and understand what the challenges faced are and look at how we can scale that up for the entirety of Powys. So we're looking to kind of create a funding bid and a partnership to deliver this action, and also to try some creative engagement opportunities that we've already been piloting around concepts such as time travel, where we work with people engaging ways to imagine futures and to see where we can be heading. And this is really about sort of building on the great work that's already being done and tying that the climate action back to well-being. For example, at the Hive, there's fantastic work being done around reduction in sort of carbon, but it's all tied into providing services for people as well. So we'd like to continue to sort of scale that work up as well. We're also looking to really work on the climate problem solving and advocacy in the next phase. So we're looking to kind of hold a range of events across Powys in the next phase and develop sort of feedback, to key public decision makers. And what this is really about, I think, is working with PSB partners, coming up with a series of problem statements and working through those statements in sort of very focused sort of hackathon style workshops where we're looking at problem solving. We've had issues discussed in the previous phase around data sharing agreements, the need for data to be available to influence risk assessments of buildings, for example. And we really hope that we can convene the right people with the right mindset and to get across some of these climate issues. I think there's a real value in sort of getting together in person to do that. We'd like to do that in the next phase. We are also looking then, work package 5 is around the kind of strategy, the policy and the project management. So Malusi in the previous phase conducted the CDP disclosure reporting for sort of the area-wide, sort of Powys. We're looking to do that CDP reporting again in this phase. Really trying to build in this kind of monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning around climate. And again, I think we need to be looking for synergies with sort of the evidence and insights strand as well, and making sure that that's all aligned as much as it can be. And then really trying to develop a costed plan for the next stage of the Secretariat's climate work. So, what happens after February? How do we future-proof a lot of the work that is being done? And then the final sort of work package then is around sort of funding, fundraising and financing. So there's a range of fundraising bids that we can look at to support different initiatives that are coming out of the project. And then we're also looking to sort of tying conversations around sort of innovative finance. We have a new head of natural capital who's doing some really great work in this area. So we want to try and ensure that those innovative finance ideas are coming into the conversation around, how we might look at climate financing within Powys. So the other thing that we've been developing, and that is going to form the basis for a lot of the work in the next phase, is this framework. So colleague has been working on a framework for area-wide climate action. And what this is looking to do really is to provide a way of us to see what's already happening within Powys, to see where we might be able to collaborate, but also look at gaps and to perform that gap analysis and really understand where we need to be heading in certain areas. So there's multiple parts to this framework. Again, there's a briefing document that explains this in a little bit more detail, but this onion diagram has come from the Climate Change Committee. And essentially, what it's saying is that public bodies can multiply their impact by mobilizing society-wide creativity, action, and resources. So at the top here, where we have the direct control, that only accounts for around sort of 2 to 5% of local emissions within public bodies. So the kind of direct control emissions are quite small, but public bodies can have significant influence over a much larger percentage of emissions locally by working through these sort of stages in the onion diagram. So there's certain things that you can change within the direct control around your buildings, your land, your operations, and your travel. But by influencing procurement, and then as we move outwards into place shaping, into innovation, into partnerships and networks, you can have a much larger impact around the emissions sort of within your area. So what we're trying to do really is to take this Climate Change Committee diagram and to develop that into a framework that works for Powys. And as part of this, we've also defined transformational shifts. So from the previous phase of work, these 9 transformational shifts have been flagged, and these are needed for us to achieve net zero and to become climate resilient locally in a way that sort of maximizes people's well-being, nature recovery, and public sector efficiency. So we have these 9 shifts around sort of climate safety, restored nature, sustainable places, which has come from the first phase of the work. And what we get if we combine the Climate Change Committee onion with these 9 shifts is a clear framework for action. So we have our various sort of ways of interacting with the onion, running from left to right, from direct control all the way out to sort of showcasing, involving and communicating. And then we have our 9 shifts here. So in theory, this framework gives us the space to explore what's already happening and what needs to happen within Powys. And what we'd like to do in the next phase is to work with the various PSB partners to understand how the work they're doing relates to this framework, to populate the framework and to perform the gap analysis. So just to give you some very brief examples, we can see within direct control around climate, so around energy saving and renewable energy, we've got the success already of all public buildings are energy efficient to EPC C standard and are powered by low carbon energy. We have examples around public employees in Powys are travelling actively and sustainably. Things like the travel charter that's coming through, that will help us to kind of reach that goal as well. We can see then, there's a lot happening around Llangatoc community travel pilot. We've got, Boyd Powys food partnerships happening over here, and then we've got the Cowell Flood Group, which is supported by Local Resilience Forum. So a lot of this work is already happening, but this framework gives us a way of forming that asset mapping and then to look at gaps around sort of Powys. So we'll continue to work with PSB partners on developing this framework further. This has been shared with a whole range of sort of colleagues in this area as well across a variety of organisations in Wales, and it's received substantial sort of buy-in, and it's seen as a very sort of coherent way of mapping all these assets. We also have our sort of 8 systemic climate risks, and this is the last slide, so thank you for your patience. Appreciate it's a lot to cover, but we have these systemic climate risks that have come out of the climate risk assessment in phase 1. So my colleague Malusi has done a lot of work looking at the vulnerabilities across Powys, and really we've come down to these 8 systemic climate risks. So when the climate risk assessment is shared with you, you'll be able to see that these systemic risks are sort of the main threats to Powys, and they're sort of unpicked within that risk assessment. And what we're sort of saying is that of all of the vulnerabilities, these are the sort of main risks that require sort of focus at this point. And this will help kind of steer key decision makers and sort of senior members into certain areas with regards to climate risk. So really it's about transitioning from what we've done in phase 1 around scoping, research, into action. There's a lot of good work being done in Powys already. We want to celebrate that, but we also need to sort of really move to action in certain areas where action isn't happening at the moment. And I would say as well, then in terms of the action that is needed from the PSB partners, that is all captured within this phase 2 plan. So by attending the workshops that we have planned, by helping us populate the Have Your Say hub, and by feeding into this sort of framework, we will really move on with the action that's required. And that's kind of where we're at and what we expect from the PSB partners as we move ahead. Very happy to answer any questions. I do appreciate it's always a lot to get through. But if there's any questions on requests for further detail, thank you.
Emma, you were very quick with your hand up, so you're top of the pile.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Toby, for the presentation. I found it really interesting, actually, and certainly in terms of the framework that you were presenting towards the end. So there's a couple of points. I think the framework would be really helpful, as you say, in terms of assets more broadly across Powys. And not solely to the local authority, because actually when you looked at the onion diagram, and I know from earlier training that Diane had organised certainly for county council colleagues, that actually it's our biggest influence is actually on wider society, not on us within the public sector itself, or within Powys County Council itself, it's much broader. So I completely understand that and get that. So I understand the onion and I like the framework. But my ask really is that when we identify the gaps, we don't naturally try and fill the gaps, any deficits through the public sector, because we've got to understand where we position ourselves and how we prioritize it with the resources that are available. So there's an element of pragmatism there, really, that is what I'm asking for at this stage. And even with the County of Powys, so a couple of things on the framework that, so for instance, all employees, actively traveling, etc. I wouldn't get to and from work if I actively travel, because I live in Brecon and I spend most of my time in Llandrindod, or tomorrow I'm in Ystrad and I'm back there again on Friday. So I don't think it can be all employees. I think that pragmatism, I think we just got to be careful right in the language, but I do understand the ethos, and where we can and where it's sensible to do so, that we encourage it as much as possible. So I'm just asking for that element. I look forward actually to the workshops that you're suggesting take place. I think they'll be really interesting and a good space for us to have some key discussions with some of the key individuals that you're looking to bring in to the workshop as well. I think they'll be very interesting. So really like what I'm seeing and hearing, but just asking for a level of pragmatism and realism in terms of the space we do or don't fill as a local, as a public sector, and the resources that are available, and then how we bring about that greater influence. So thank you, Toby.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I found it hugely interesting too, and I'm encouraged by the work we're yet to do to fill some of the gaps. So my mind was thinking when we talked about health and social care, so that was number 8 in the box. Is it really health and social care? Although, turning my head back just a few days, I mean, you wouldn't believe it today, would you? 14 degrees and raining. We had 32 degrees in Abu Kamir, and it was boiling hot. And of course, we know that at this point in time, human bodies, frail human bodies, are under a great deal of stress, and we see weather-related or climate-related deaths in the winter. It would be the other way round. So there are different pressures on our systems as a result of climate that actually this isn't necessarily identifying into those headings, but there will be pockets of activity responses, etc. And that isn't necessarily to, give everyone cooling systems, but it might be giving people advice to make their own decisions and choices, isn't it? Which is picking up on Emma's theme. So really interesting. I again look forward to further work. Mez, did I challenge you to when I mentioned the hot weather and vulnerable people?
Yeah, thank you. It's extremes, isn't it? Really, it's absolutely pouring down where I am today, really. But important point there, really, as well, around messaging with the public. So thank you, Toby. I know we met about 10 days ago, so thank you for taking some of that on board as well. So absolutely agree, really, about engaging with the public, and I'm just wondering, how do we link this work up with our engagement work, which was obviously strand 1. When we are engaging, are there key messages that we want to get across as well? So and then it's one of the things I've sort of been reflecting on, Toby, after our meeting the other week, is about in terms of engagement with the public, what are the little things that we all can do, or we may all be doing it, or how do we roll things out, really, to have a bigger sort of effect on change, really? So I welcome some of the projects mentioned in the action plan, but then also in terms of population change, I'm just thinking about what are those small things, and are there 1 or 2 things actually across the public sector that we as individuals can do, and may not necessarily be organisational, but actually as engaging with the public element? And are you giving any thought to that, and is the working group giving any thought to that?
Thank you, Nez. If I can come in, Chair. Yes, I've been thinking again, say after our discussion around, you sort of highlighted again, the importance of those kind of quick wins when, you know, there's so much pressure for resource as well. And I think we're really hoping that, you know, something like the Have to Say website will be a place where we can distill, you know, potentially very technical reports that we have into those kind of very short sort of actions and things which we can communicate with, you know, with organisations and with sort of stakeholders as well. So I think you're quite right. I think there's a lot of very technical work being done in the first phase, and moving to that kind of messaging and those kind of quick wins for PSP partners is something we're very aware of. It's making sure that the decisions that you have to make are, you know, are easy because they're evidence, but then they're very clear and, you know, sort of short wins. So yeah, very cognizant of that and very keen to make sure that that comes out of the work we're doing with the workshops as well. That's resulting in those kind of very clear actions. So yeah, thank you for the discussion the other day. It was really valuable. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Toby, for that tour through the work that you're doing. I'll move on then to the third standing item, if that's all right. And that's, I assume is it you, Mez, or someone else from the Powys Teaching Health Board, looking at a whole system approach to healthy weight, if I've got the agenda correct.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'll introduce it, but I'm joined by Anna, who's sort of leading the work on the team for the Health Board. So we're bringing the latest update on the whole systems approach to healthy weight. Obviously, priority, as everybody is aware of, is in that preschool sort of space element. And I just want to acknowledge and thank, this is a whole partnership approach really element. So I'll hand over to Anna now. Thanks, Anna.
Oh, thank you, Mez. Just loading the presentation now, so hopefully that's going to come up for you all now. Okay.
We can see it.
Great, thank you. So I think you're all very familiar now with the background. I've presented this slide a few times when we've just done the introduction to the whole system approach to healthy weight, just to kind of emphasise the key areas that we're focusing on. You will notice that there's a little change from Q4, and that's really a merging of two groups. So before we had the breastfeeding group and the introduction to solids group. At our last strategic meeting, we agreed to merge them to form the Powys Whole System Approach Early Nutrition Group, mainly because we thought that the priorities were overlapping, the attendance was sometimes the same, and we thought we could get a little bit more movement and support if we brought those partnerships together, I suppose. So we've now formed one group from the breastfeeding introduction to solid foods, and likewise with cooking skills and affordability of healthy food, we've merged those two groups to form the Powys Whole System Approach Accessibility of Healthy Food group. So again, it's just to make the work a little bit more efficient, a little bit more smoother, and to really make sure that we're bringing all the correct partners together in the right place to work on those areas. So we've had one meeting so far of the early nutrition group, which went really well. We haven't met with the accessibility of healthy food group yet, but we think that this approach now with the two groups rather than the four groups will be a better way forwards. But focusing on the first strand of the early years nutrition group is breastfeeding. So some of the work we've been doing in Q1 of this year, again, carrying on to promoting the breastfeeding welcome scheme. We set a target to hit 300 organisations signing up to that scheme by Breastfeeding Awareness Week, which is the 1st to 7th of August of this year. We're actually on about 320 now, so we have met that target, and we're hoping to get to 350 now by Breastfeeding Awareness Week. We've got a comms plan developed, so this was to try and move away from so much of the active involvement in going out to organisations, trying to get them to sign up, and let some of the comms in the background take the lead. So we've got a comms plan for this year. We've already started putting things in place, and we've got some videos, social media posts, working with both Powys County Council and Powys Teaching Health Board, and some sort of news items have gone out as well. So just a little bit of publicity really to help encourage businesses to sign up to the scheme. We've got ongoing work in the Health Board itself, working on the breastfeeding charter. So this is something that's come down from national level, and it's about trying to encourage organisations to adopt, I suppose, a gold standard workplace policy to support mums who are returning to work and who are still wishing to breastfeed. What we're aiming to do here is to create that policy in-house first for the health board, and then share with wider partners so that anyone can use this sort of gold standard policy and adapt it for their own workplace. So we're hoping that should be finished August, September this year. We're also working in the health board to the UNICEF Baby Friendly initiative. So there's an assessment taking place in July. And again, it's just it's a quality standard to show that services are supportive of breastfeeding across the health board. Key milestones then for Q2, continuing to roll out the breastfeeding awareness scheme, welcome scheme across Powys. We're targeting Brecon and I think it's Machynlleth as well this month. So we've got a team working in the Powys County Council who'll be going out and trying to get people to sign up. We've got the intensive communication scheme campaign going out in the first week of August. We're hoping to complete the breastfeeding charter, and also the UNICEF Baby Friendly Initiative assessment will be in early July. So I played a video last time of the Cooking Counts project that we ran. I'm going to play a video now of the breastfeeding video that we put together to encourage businesses to sign up to the Breastfeeding Welcome Scheme. We've got another 3 videos going out in Breastfeeding Awareness Week, but this one's quite a nice general one that just shows you a little bit about the scheme, what mums are thinking about it, and also what businesses have thought about it so far. So if anyone can't hear, please shout out. But we've done a test and it did work, so I'm hoping it will work straight away this time. Okay, so the video really was just a way of trying to get a bigger impact. We find that when we use local people, local businesses, gets a lot more shares on Facebook, a lot more people relate. So it's a really good way, I suppose, of spreading the word to a lot more people than we could get out to in a day to talk to. I'll move on to the next area, which is the introduction to solid foods. So this one is around trying to increase knowledge, confidence about introducing healthy solid foods to young children in the 0 to 5 age group. We are working with Powys County Council currently. They've got a website that I think it's just been released, a parenting hub with lots of information for new parents. So we're looking to get some more information about good nutrition and healthy start scheme, for example, on that website. We're continuing to promote the Gold Standard Healthy Snack Award, which is being delivered through our local preschool scheme. So this award is around increasing opportunities for children to have healthy snacks. It covers things like food hygiene, a healthy and happy food environment. And so it's trying to teach young children about those healthy habits from a young age. And we think this is particularly important now, around particularly with the consultation around food in primary schools coming out. We know that if we don't expose children to these healthy foods from a young age, they're not going to eat those sort of foods when they get to primary school. So it's really important in that 0 to 5 years to give children a wide variety of tastes of healthy foods so that they do go on to eat those foods as they grow older. What we're focusing on in Q2 again is just to continue to increase the number achieving that Gold Standard Snack Award. And we're also looking at some data around weaning, at age of weaning. So we know that that's collected by health visitors currently, at what age a child starts eating solid foods. But actually it's very difficult to pull that data back to look at and examine really. So we're working with national colleagues to try and pull that data so we can get a better feeling of how and when children are introduced to solids in Powys. The next theme, so this one obviously falls into the accessibility of healthy food group now. So this is affordability of healthy food. We're still working on the Healthy Start scheme, continuing to promote that, and working with quite a few partners on that as well. We're also working with Boyd Powys Food, a local grower, Flying Start team, and some local nurseries about trying to introduce healthy veg boxes into nurseries. So these are both for parents to purchase and also for the nursery to use. We're looking at ways to use the Healthy Start card to be able to purchase those fruit and vegetables as well. So just trying to get people in the habit of using that Healthy Start card to buy fruit and vegetables. So this is planned for later this year that we'll be running that pilot. In terms of what we're aiming to do for the next quarter as well, we're continuing to advocate nationally to improve the Healthy Start scheme really. So one of the barriers with Healthy Start scheme is that you can't use it for online shopping. So we're trying to advocate for that to change. And also in Scotland, they've got a model whereby if you're on relevant benefits, qualifying benefits, you automatically get enrolled in the Healthy Start scheme, which means you don't have to fill out all these hundreds of forms to get access to the card. So that would be a huge barrier removed if we could move to that sort of model. Nationally, they are reviewing the Healthy Start scheme, so we have been able to feed into that review to give the local experience, I suppose, on what we're hearing from people are some of the issues with using the card. The final theme, cooking skills. So this one again fits into accessibility of healthy food. What we've been starting to work on this quarter then is to work out how we can get a better understanding of the issues around cooking skills. So people told us in the initial stakeholder engagement events that cooking skills was difficult, it was a barrier to eating healthy food, but we wanted to kind of understand, well, what part of cooking skills is difficult? Do people not have the knowledge? Can people not afford to cook the healthy food? Can people not access the healthy food? Do people not have the equipment? Can people not afford the costs of cooking? Where do we need to intervene to make the biggest difference? So we've sent out, I suppose, a project tender specification document. and we're hoping to get some people to come back to us with ideas on how they would deliver insight work to find out a little bit more about what's going in this area. So we're looking at specific targeted insight work with parents of 0 to 5-year-olds to understand what's going on around the cooking skills. We have touched base briefly with Connor a couple of weeks ago about this as well, to see if it's something the insight strand could support with. So yeah, we're hoping to get that work mobilised in the next quarter or so. And that's it from us for now. Just a reminder of the methodology we're following, but yeah, work is progressing well, and we've got plans for the next few quarters that will hopefully improve the actions that we've got within our delivery plan and help us to take things to the next level. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Anna. There's some really interesting stuff there, and I don't want to take away from any of that, but in a sort of a search, I suppose, for joined up and connected thinking being evidenced through some of what is on display. Obviously, Powys Teaching Health Board is a signatory to the Boys Powys Food plan that we have around food farming, active, and the action plan there. So the partnership produced a series of actions, and we have opportunities around the food and fun program within schools and so forth. And I had expected, I think, to have seen some of that being taken back. So even in the work programs that you have yourself, you might have joined those up and across the organizations. But I guess that's something that can be done outside of this, because we must, of course, keep looking outside of our own tram lines to the work we're doing elsewhere, and then coming back in collectively, I would have thought.
Yeah, definitely. So we are linked in with food and fun, but I suppose our focus is 0 to 5. So we've got a healthy schools team and dietetics team that are very much involved in the food and fun programme. And so I haven't reported on it in this particular strand of work, but yes, Powys Teaching Health Board are involved and working very closely with Boy Powys Food in that project.
Yes, thank you. Emma.
Thank you, Chair. Anna, I really enjoyed the presentation last time in the video, and I certainly enjoyed the video this year. I smiled, this meeting, I smiled throughout in terms of seeing, the stickers on the shop doors and to see over 300 businesses signing up. I think, that's a significant contribution to this, and then to hear those stories firsthand and the difference, and I think the societal change. I know a parent in there referred. I actually remember being ashamed feeding myself and sitting in a public toilet out of the way. So to think how things have moved on, and you have my full support in respect of it. And well done for the work that you're all doing. On the broader healthy food, though, and the second element of the presentation, I've been in a few discussions of late. I won't touch on the elements that Councillor Berryman has referred to and repeat that. But separate to those discussions, the Child Task Poverty Conference was held recently, led by Councillor Dorrance. And it was really interesting listening to the young people at that conference. And how some young people are choosing not to eat school dinners, for instance, or well, why? Because the provision is now being made for all young people to have that meal in the school setting, and part of it was because it's so healthy that actually it's not normal for some of those individuals to have broccoli, for instance, on the plate. So the reason I raise that is not to get into a whole discussion about school meals, but just thinking about schools as a partner, and in terms of setting, the meal plans, etc., within such settings, making sure that we are making the links. Because I can understand why you're introducing the healthy stuff at 0 to 5, as you said, it wouldn't be so different than when they get into school. But I do think there is a balance for me between eating healthy, but for some not eating at all because it's too healthy. So because not eating at all, of course, will also bring about its challenges. So I think I'm looking for a nod really that we are joining up and working with I think it'll be Jason now in terms of catering for our schools. Then the other element, which was that came as a shock to me actually, when I've been looking at education and the improvements that we need to make around education, and also looking at attendance in a school in the north, and you know, they fed back that one of the reasons that young people weren't attending was actually because of food, which I thought was quite interesting. So again, just making those wider observations, those connections in terms of us as public sector working in that partnership space. So I think it follows on then in terms of the ethos of Councillor Berriman's point around seeing stuff across the sector, not just this in a you know, separate in terms of public health through the health board. I hope all that makes sense, but I'm just trying to triangulate some of the things that I'm hearing and seeing. Praise the good work, but also say actually there are these other strands that I think we can explore further in partnership to bring about a difference for our young people. But thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you, Emma, and Mez, I think will like to respond to that.
Yeah, thank you. Really helpful, and thanks, Anna, and all the partners involved. So the yeah, it's just interesting really, isn't it, and concerning about some of those messages or insights coming back as well. So and I presume that's probably linked to secondary school, perhaps children rather than primary schools, but we do know that, you know, sort of eating habits are established by the age of sort of 7, and the wider the foods that people can taste in early life, then that helps to set a broad palette as well. So so in terms of schools and generally, obviously this is focused at that preschool, but within there's healthy schools and also the well-being and sort of education element, and there is the opportunity to develop like school nutrition action groups involving children in schools around the development of, you know, school meals, etc., but also looking at how we can you know, widen the palette or the different healthy food choices. We're involving young people in that, so I think that's something we could explore through education and the Healthy Schools team as well. That could be helpful.
Thank you very much. There's certainly quite a bit of joined up work with young people themselves in setting menus. I think it's just making sure we just pause, isn't it, and reflect and see where other partners can contribute and what they're doing, isn't it? Because there's lots of work, and we started today, didn't we, saying let's not duplicate things. Let's make sure we complement whatever we do. So that's really encouraging there. So in terms of the agenda now, we've dealt with those 3 items, and the next item on the agenda would have been healthy travel, with Councillor Jackie Charlton coming in to speak to that. Speaking to Councillor Jackie before the meeting, she is tied up. She had accepted, yes, she's tied up elsewhere with a meeting that we have on adult social care at the moment. And so we're just going to delay this paper and bring it back at a future meeting if that's all right with everybody. Yeah. And in which case, I think the next substantive item on the agenda is the paper, and I don't know who's presenting this. This is the paper on the Future Generations report that we have. I suspect we haven't managed to leverage Derek Walker to come and present it, so I'm looking to others to advise me how this is considered today.
Yeah, that would be me, Catherine, James,
Oh.
not Derek. Okay, yeah, so on page, is it, well, we've got a Welsh and an English version. So the Welsh version is the English. So yeah, so this is the Future Generations Commissioners report. So every 5 years, a bit like ourselves, he has to publish a report. It's designed to support not just politicians, but public body leaders in making life better for people, not just now, but into the future. So the report does contain the Commissioner's assessment of the improvements that public bodies should make to set and meet the wellbeing objectives that we have to do. And it also outlines how we could better safeguard future generations to meet their needs as well. So the report looks at things in terms of the impact of the Act and as well as things like climate, health, culture, economy, food, and how we're all implementing the wellbeing objectives, as well as looking into the long term and those future proofing. So we do have to look at this report and take some of it into account when setting or reviewing our own wellbeing objectives. So the report does make some recommendations. There's over 50 in total, of which about 20 of them apply to public service boards. So really it was just to share with you the report, and obviously there'll be some things for us as a group, but then others, you know, there are elements in there that may be relevant, for instance, to like for instance the council in terms of some of the food things, etc., etc. So it was just for you all to be aware of it, really. It's been timed and published now so that political parties can take some of this on board with their own manifestos, but this is the executive summary in the agenda pack. There is a fuller report for anyone who wishes to look at the bigger report, and that's on the Commissioner's website. So there are some call to action points for public bodies and PSBs, and they're on page 5 of the report. So that's agenda pack 79 for the Welsh, or 107 on the English version. So some of those were around no more short-term fixes, so really thinking long-term, having supercharged actions with many multiple benefits, unlocking private sector finance, that real living wage commitment, ring fencing any prevention funding, and then one around rebuilding trust in decision making. So that's really involving people in shaping policies and services as well. So really it was just to share this with you all. There are many recommendations, so I don't think we've got time to sort of run through them one by one, but it was just a plea to have a look at it if you already haven't had sight of it.
Thank you very much. And of course, the one you didn't read out there around the National Food Resilience Plan speaks volumes to the last paper that we were just looking at, and picks up on some of the exciting work we're doing in Powys over the Sarn New Farms, Future Farms project, but also the work that the Trust are doing, and we're trying to do in schools with Castle Howell and others to make sure fresh fruit and veg gets in the diet of our youngsters in a way that is palatable and they'll eat it. So it's really interesting where Derek Walker's focus is in around food and supporting obviously new farming, and we're looking today to see, I haven't looked at the news, I understand there's going to be a new announcements today, potentially around sustainable regenerative farming being more encouraged in the main, and of course that is going to help us address some of the climate issues that we faced in the earlier paper that we heard. So it really is all connected, and so a timely reminder, Catherine, and I thank you for that. Did you want to just come back?
Just to add, it's quite a positive note, which I forgot to mention, that we have taken some of these steps already as a PSB. So, for instance, recommendation 14 was undertaking a climate risk assessment, and then as well integrating partnership assessments and strategic plans. So, in terms of the Public Service Board and Regional Partnership Board, you know, work is underway to pull those together, particularly around engagement, but other things as well. So it was just to say that some of this stuff is already underway.
Thank you very much. And okay, that's there to note. And the next thing on our agenda today is to look to the correspondence from the Welsh Government. That's on agenda item 7, and receive and consider letters received. One is a response to the PSB's request for PSB-led climate action funding, and a letter to be sent on behalf of Dawn Bowden, MS regarding responsibility for PSBs in relation to the UN Convention on Rights of a Child. Catherine, are you able to briefly summarise those, or because are they in the agenda pack?
Yeah, so both of those letters are in the agenda pack. I was just scrolling to try and get to the right page there. So page 133 is the response that we had back from Welsh Government. So we sent a letter, if you will recall, on the 30th, I say we, Councillor James Gibson-Watt sent it on behalf of the Public Service Board on the 31st of March in relation to climate any funding for climate action. And so this is the response that we had on page 133. And then also the letter that we had of the Dawn Bowden, the member of the Senedd, an English and a Welsh version are also there on page 137, just outlining really our duties for children's rights and many resources that we may not know about. So just raising awareness really of what the legislation suggests and some good practice and tools that may be useful to you.
Thank you. And it's noted there weren't any pounds, shilling and pence response numbers in the letter received back to our funding request. But never mind, we have to keep asking, don't we? So having noted those, the item 8, I think it is the forward work programme. So we've got standing items, other items, etc., and you've identified where they've been in the past and where we intend to see them in the future. Did you want to speak to that?
No, that is just for information really for everyone, so that everybody's aware of the dates of the next meetings through for the next, going forward. And if there were any items that people wish to add to the agenda, please let us know so that we can schedule those accordingly.
Okay, and I've got a hand up from Emma Palmer.
It's just linking the work programme, but also the report actually from the Future Generations Commissioner. I was just sat here thinking, I was mulling over thinking from selfishly from a local authority perspective, but actually it would be the same in terms of public sector and in general and PSB. There are some clear requirements, aren't there, in the Future Generations report that we are expected to take forward as PSB. And Catherine quite rightly pointed out, we're doing some of those already, but we're not doing them all. And I'm just wondering whether we need to create some space to collectively get underneath the report and consider those things that we should be doing overall as a PSB to just think through in terms of our future planning and sort of get ahead in terms of our next wellbeing plan, because there is a point around it not being 5 years, it's 50 years. But I think there's some clear direction within the report itself, and I just thought maybe we should consider that, Chair, in terms of work programming or a workshop of some sort.
That's a very interesting suggestion. We're scheduled to come back on the 25th of September and have quite a full, that's where the annual report is. But would we need to do it before the annual report? Are you suggesting, Emma? Sorry, you'll be better versed on this than myself.
No, because I think the annual report that refers to is sort of the backward looking probably for last financial year. But I just think we perhaps need to be in that strategic space of thinking through those elements rather than just we've received the report. Well, actually, what are we going to do about it over and above what we're doing or our future thinking for future plans? Or do we accept not now and those other things will be prioritised in due course? So I think it's just creating that space to allow us to do that.
So if we're looking forward to, say, the 11th of the 12th, where we've got the Powys food strategy update then, is it an item we want to discuss at that point, or would it be have been of merit, actually, if we've done a little bit of, a few of us have just got our heads together and got some takeouts from that to discuss on the 11th, ready, so ready, prepared, a ready meal.
Yeah, Catherine, I don't know what you think is doable.
So I think Emma's right. So if there was a sort of workshop, say we could try and look for dates in the autumn, and then the outcome of that could come through to the December meeting.
Okay, can I leave you to take it away? I'm happy to sit with you and be part of that little workshop group. It doesn't need all of us, but it probably needs, 2 or 3 of us to just review the report and pick out a few threads, doesn't it? So the action then is, Catherine, you can pull 2 or 3 volunteers, or you can volunteer some people around a group so that we have something to share in December. So thank you, Emma, for flagging that. I think that's absolutely right to do. And that said and done then, is there anything? We've had the dates of the next meeting. Now I've got it says here private session sustainability updates. Catherine, I forgot to ask you to brief me on this in advance. Do we now move into private session, or are we okay in what goes on? Sorry.
So the PSB meeting obviously is everything that we've covered this afternoon. And so this is if there was something specific related to an organisation that others wanted to share that wasn't suitable, but yeah, that's fine.
So you want me to close the meeting as it is? Is that right? Because you're recording the meeting, aren't you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so learning. So if there is nothing else, I'll just quickly look across to hands. I'll formally close the meeting and thank you for your attendance today. So Catherine or Connor, can you stop recording?